And our next speaker came from Berlin. She is currently working as senior iOS engineer at N26. She has 10 years of experience, and her main focus is currently building scalable applications. And during her talk, she's going to speak about tech debt and how to deal with it. So, why did I tell you about tech debt featuring Hiralee Malaviya?
Thank you
Please
very
give
much.
her a warm welcome.
Good evening, everyone. Hope you are all having a great day, and the cake was delicious. So, I'm Hiralee Malaviya, senior iOS engineer currently working at N26, and I'm here to talk today about technical debt. So, before we start, I want to know from all of you, have you all heard about the term technical debt? Please raise your hands. That's great. We all know about it. How many of you have dealt with it in your company or your previous company or had discussions around that? Okay, nice. Moving on. So what is technical debt? So technical debt is something that it is a term, a metaphor, that was coined by Ward Cunningham, who is also known as one of the 17 authors of the Agile Manifesto. So he coined the term when he was working for a financial application in Smalltalk, and he wanted to justify to his boss the refactoring that they were doing by explaining the refactoring in terms of a financial analogy. So he explained that the difference between the software that we have currently and the current understanding of the financial product that we are having, if it is a huge difference, then we will keep stumbling upon that disagreement which is like paying an interest on a loan. It is also a tool. So as you might know that we often invest in real estate by getting a financial loan, financial debt, in order to get ahead of the market prices to mark some profits. Similarly, technical debt is something that we use to achieve something as a goal, as a tool to get ahead in order to achieve market profits. So, as any debt or any loan would have consequences, technical debt also has consequences where you might be paying higher interest rates after you have done the work. So you start today, you take shortcuts today, but later on you pay on the interest rates. It is also a metaphor that is used frequently to communicate to non-technical stakeholders in our team, to explain to them that technical debt is something that needs to be tackled on early on in order to speed up the production process or to reach the delivery line early. So we all love games, right? So it's game time. Raise your hands if each of the examples that follow do you think is a technical debt or not? Okay. Error or bug in a feature. Do you think it's a technical debt? Okay, one person, two. All right. Manual regression for older features. Do you think it's a technical debt? Okay, few more. A huge module in an application. Is it a technical debt? Yeah. Don't reveal the secrets. Shortcuts taken due to being 100% utilized. Yeah, okay. 100% working legacy code. Screen not using SwiftUI. Okay, so thank you for playing the small game with me. And let's understand technical debt in detail. So consider that we are having an iOS application which consists of 3 modules, A, B, and C, and each of the module has a different level of craft, which is annotated by the brown color in each module. The craft is something that is a code that lacks quality, and the green part is the quality code. So technical debt is a metaphor which is used to think about how to deal with that craft in order to increase our production capabilities. Also, the extra effort that we pay to deliver any feature, to modify or extend any application, if there is some level of craft in the module, is the interest that we are paying for the technical debt in the application. So Martin Fowler in 2006 introduced technical quadrant in order to divide the technical debt into various categories in terms of its intent and in terms of its context. Let's take a look at that. So as you can see the quadrant, along the x-axis you can see the intent behind a technical debt, whether it is a deliberate one, which was taken by a team consciously, or it was an inadvertent one where the team is not aware of its consequences. And along the y-axis, you can see whether the debt was a reckless one or a prudent one. Reckless meaning that a team had done a poor job, which led them into a technical debt, or it was a prudent one where the team had taken a wise decision to take on a technical debt with a strategy and tools in their mind in the future how to tackle it. Let's see each of these quadrants with an example. Quadrant 1, which is a combination of reckless and deliberate debt. We don't have time for design. So this is a dreadful combination where there is a team which does some poor job at writing the code and is aware of its consequences but doesn't do anything about it. Consider a company where they are nearing a release date and the testers are doing all the testing part, and they come up with the company and say that there are some improvements that need to be done, and if they are not done on time before the launch of the product, then we might fail. But the company doesn't pay heed to them, and they go on with the release, and the product quality suffers. What's the result at the end of it? The product fails miserably at the market. They get some negative reviews, and they might have to recall the product completely. The next quadrant is prudent and deliberate. We must ship now and deal with the consequences. Here, the team is prudent, thinking wisely ahead of the time because why they are taking the technical debt, and it is also a deliberately taken technical debt. So again, with an example, consider a company who is planning for delivery, planning for release since several months. Once they come near to the delivery line, they try to analyze what are the issues in the application. Once they find out that there are some small issues, they try to analyze them if they will have any consequences if they go in the market without being fixed. They come to know that there are no such harsh consequences, so they decide to not delay and release the product. What is the result? The product is a huge success among the users, and it also gains very good reviews. And they also get some improvements from the reviews from the users about other improvements that can be done. So here, the team was prudent and deliberate in taking the decision about technical debt, and they didn't delay the release. The third quadrant is a combination of reckless and inadvertent tech debt, where the team is reckless in making the decision, and it's also unconsciously made. So what's MVVM? So someone in the team who doesn't know the best of the best practices to implement or to deliver a feature is might end up in this kind of a technical debt where they are not even aware or they are inadvertent of the technical debt they are going to take. And the fourth quadrant is a combination of prudent and inadvertent, where you might think that this is a combination where we might not end up. But it is not only common, but it happens to the team of most excellent developers, where the developers say that, the developer team says that, now we know how we should have done it. So, as you know, software development is a process of continuous learning and testing. So, for example, that a company delivered a successful product and the client is super happy with them. But later on, even the development team is satisfied with the work they have delivered, but they in the retrospect, they think that we might have done this design in a different way, or this is a new design that might fit better, and we might want to improve on that. So this is something that a kind of a technical debt, a healthy technical debt that keeps on building as and when you grow your application. One note to recommend here is that it is always a best practice to be in the quadrant 2, which is a combination of a prudent and a deliberate tech debt. And you must always avoid getting into quadrant 1 and 3, which are of reckless nature. Now we know the 4 categories of the quadrants. You shall ask, how do we use them? So if you find yourself that a piece of code which sounds to you as a technical debt, and you want to know which quadrant does it lies into, is it a healthy tech debt or not a healthy tech debt, how to introduce it to the product in order to tackle it, then you might want to ask yourself the following questions. Were you aware of the technical debt existence or not? So this will answer you whether the technical debt was deliberate or it was unintentionally found out later on. The another part is that, are you familiar with the consequences that it might have? So was it a reckless or a prudent decision to go ahead with this technical debt? Now that we have identified what kind of technical debt we are into, let's see how we can tackle it. So the first way is to pay the principal off gradually. So you have taken the debt, you are paying interest every time you are adding a new feature because it is taking you extra number of days to implement it. So what you can do is start paying the principal off gradually. Let's see it with the help of an example. So in the left side, you can see a module which has some level of craft build-up, which is some bad quality code, which is annotated in brown color. And on the right side, you can see the initial state of that module. So in a team or in a situation where you find yourself that you have a few features to deliver and you want to deliver them gradually, and you also see that there are improvements that you want to do, so what you can do is you introduce the new changes, and as a part of them, you remove some craft out of it. So what you are doing is paying off some principal, so the next interest rate becomes lower, and the number of days it might take to implement the next feature decreases. So again, a next feature comes in, you touch this module, you remove some craft while introducing new changes. This is often the most recommended method to go off in removing technical debt. Another one is paying the interest payment when needed. Again, we have a module with some craft and the initial state on the right side. And this module is not touched for months. But the developers know, the team knows that there is some craft that should be removed. For example, some legacy code which is working fine in production, but you might have a different design in your mind that you want to implement with. What approach you can take here is whenever there is a need, whenever a need arises to introduce some new changes, you take that opportunity to remove the craft. And again, because it is not changed for months, you don't change it until you need to change it again. So you might ask, what are the examples where I might need to follow this method? So there might be examples where you have much higher product priorities to attend to, and you are able to remove the craft only as and when you get a chance to, but you are still doing it so as to get your app into a better quality state. The third way is to pay the principal off completely. So I had this mortgage for so many years. I'm fed up of it. I'm going to get rid of it in one go. You have one module which has a lot of craft built up, and on the right side you can see that very less quality code is present and a lot of craft is there. So what you do is sit on a sunny day and you just remove all the craft. We all like to see this green color, right? Yeah. So this kind of tackling the technical debt can be useful whenever the team is having bandwidth with them and they know that something needs to be changed immediately on an urgent basis. For example, the minimum deployment target for your app is, say, 12.0, and your code still has something that doesn't fit it. So what you need to do is you need to urgently remove the older part of the code in order to make it upgraded everything for 12.0. But deciding which way to approach depends on lots of constraints. We can't just say that we will take the most recommended route. It depends on, is your company a startup or scaled? So startup might have a lot of pressure in order to get out products into the market. They might not give their team a chance to refactor things that might go on, and the app might be in a very naive state where it has not developed much of the craft and you are still exploring ways, you are still developing it. Another one is, do you want to do an early release, early market release? Do you want to realize the profits by being first in the market before any of the other competitors? Is the size of module small or large? If it is too large, if the craft takes a lot of days, say a month's time, then you cannot do it completely, right? You cannot sit for a whole month removing the craft and saying to the product that I will implement my changes, implement the new features later on, let me remove the craft. What are the current product priorities? Similarly, with just what I just explained above. Okay, so it's game time again. You know the drill. Raise your hands if you think that it is a tech debt or not. Error or bug in a feature. Is it a technical debt? Yeah, so I would say that it is not a technical debt because error or bug is something that you need to focus heads on. Given the priority of the bug, if it is very high, then you need to fix it before you launch the product. Otherwise, your company's reputation or the product's reputation is at stakes. Manual regression for older features. Do you think it's a tech debt? I think there is some change. We saw many hands in the last time. Okay, it is a tech debt because you are paying an interest rate every time you release. Maybe your testers team or the quality team or the developers have to do the manual regression every time they do a release. So you are paying an interest rate. So if the regression was automated, in that case, you won't have to do any extra work. So it is a tech debt that you need to consider as and when you get time to fix it. A huge module. Is it a technical debt? Okay, yeah. It is a technical debt because a huge module also means having a high build time. So again, it depends on how huge it is because we cannot measure it based on your application. And if it is too big and it is affecting adding or extending any new functionality to your app, then in that case, it might be a good idea to separate it into smaller modules with similar business functionalities. Shortcuts taken due to being 100% utilized. Okay. I hope people are not sleeping. Because, yeah. Okay, very less hands. It is a technical debt because you are taking shortcuts, you need to repay, you need to fix it. You are taking a route that is not the best design, you need to come back and fix it with the best design. 100% working legacy code. Yeah, it is not a technical debt because it is not affecting you in any way because it is working fully functionally on production until and unless it becomes an urgent need to change it because of some changes in the product, in the API, in the versioning, or anything that is there. And screen is not using SwiftUI. Again, it depends. So there might be an example that you are working in a team where everybody is not well versed with the UI kit, and they know they are very well versed with SwiftUI, although that might not be the case. But if that is the case, then if it is slowing down your development time, then in that case, it would be a great idea to start migrating your screens to SwiftUI so that you can, whenever there are changes in the screen, in those particular screen, then it does not take a lot of time. That was all from my end. It's time for Q&A.
Okay, do we have any questions?
Thank you. You showed like the third way to pay the technical debt was like something like seemed like a complete rewrite, right? Don't you think that this is slightly dangerous because even as you have craft in your code, you already have some bugs found. You have tests maybe because if you don't have tests, you cannot refactor. You are rewriting. So going in one way and in one go and just paying the whole debt, don't you think this is something that sometimes you cannot do because it's super expensive and you don't have the time? And do you think this is like a good way to do it? Because I think isn't this risky? So that's the question.
Yes, exactly. It is risky, but again, there might be scenarios. This is, I think, not the most recommended way you would handle a tech debt, but there might be cases, as I mentioned about versioning, that say suppose Java, your application is in Java and the Java is upgrading its version, and you have 3 months or 4 months of time to upgrade your application. Until now, you were maybe outsourcing it from some another firm, another company, and now you need to get hang of those people again, that team again, and ask them to come back and work on your code. So it always depends on the context, on the intent and the situation you are in, your team is in. But these are the ways that you can deal with it, right? So you can sit one fine day and decide, I want to remove everything and do it again. But it may not be the practical way, but it depends on the scenarios.
Okay, thank you.
But this is not the best way. The best way is to do it gradually, as and when you take on new features. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Do I win something?
Okay, I don't see any other hands, so thank you very much, Hiralee.
Oh,
okay.
We have one.
You can thank me later because you get another round of just because of me.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, this is just actually a small question because I really wanted to hear other people, other opinions. I heard a lot about that. You mentioned something about feature, a bug, being or not technical debt. And I had the opportunity for a team that there is a bug and normally you go there and address immediately. But well, we discovered that the user find another way to do the things, and we decided that just let that them, because well, they are working another way, and we're getting less and less and less as problem. So for a while, we decided deliberately, let's let them there. Even the bug snag was not sending us nothing. And well, what's your opinion on that? I mean, I talked to Agile coach. They said, okay, if you're Agile, you should have been addressing that because, well, it's working. So
Yeah. So that's what I mentioned, that whenever you are having any issues or improvements that you find before launching your product, before releasing anything, you consider or analyze the priority or the impact that that bug would have. If it is a high priority bug, might be breaking the features, the main feature that you are introducing, say it breaks the search functionality of the application, then it may not work. There would be lots of, just on the next day, you will have lots of tweets from the users saying that the thing is not working for me, the search is not working for me, it's failing. But if it is something that is very mild in nature, very low priority, and it is not bothering with the functionality the user has to use, then it is something that it can be improved later on, and the team can focus on the next product priorities that they might have in the backlog. So again, I would say it depends on the context and knowing when is the right time to tackle a tech debt. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? No? No.